Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. This is what you do, and this is me doing retired things. How's it going? I'm pretty sure we're live, and if not, well, then we're just hanging out and we're just recording it. So either way, as always with my good buddies, Dion Talk from Financial Freedom and Millennial Mike, and Mike is walking wounded today. No sleep.
I'm tired.
So we'll try and take it a little bit easier on him. The King of Gary needs his rest, and
Always.
then we're testing out some things on. There you go, King of Gary. There you go. And here come the comments. Oh, there's Burdick, Janitor on fire. Dylan McMahon, Janitor on fire. Very good. So yeah, we're live. Very interesting. So we're trying out some new things because Dion doesn't want to use StreamYard. And so
here's my question.
Yes.
You set it up to stream. I hit stream. Now
Yes.
we're finally live on my channel. Okay, now I see it. We're good.
See?
I was wondering when it was going to kick through, but hey, howdy. That had to confuse everybody, or at least me.
Yeah,
Okay,
I was going to say we were the ones spending time trying to figure it out.
The purpose of today's video, Matt,
Yeah,
is to answer people's financial freedom questions and real estate investing questions. So if that's
it's
your
that exactly.
thing, here you are, and here we are.
That's
Two
true.
of us have enough sleep from last night and are saving up energy to take naps later today. One of us got no sleep last night and is going to have to go to work tonight.
Yeah. That would be the one of us that still has a full-time job and was working. And now, thanks to my promotion, now works the night shift, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. So lucky me. And making that adjustment after 4 years of being on days, because I did have all the seniority I needed to be on days as an officer. But now as a sergeant, I'm the new guy again. So no seniority, straight to the crappy shift.
I remember when Ash was working nights as a nurse. That sucked. That was awful. No good. No es bueno. Well, guys, thanks for coming and hanging out. So no questions yet from anybody, but it's good. We won't do these every week, but we'll do them close to that just because, I have to at least feel like I have control of my schedule. But it was fun. Today, ran out and met with the city on something. Oh, my goodness. The update on the jail is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I knew I didn't want to be a developer. I knew it.
What's going on with that?
So I went in and they said, well, they said, well, you need a water sewer impact fee. And I was like, it's not a new building. Nope. And she goes, change of use. And I was like, well, I figured you guys didn't want me to open up a police station. That would be competition. Or a jail. And she's like, she kind of like looked at me and I was like, I'm joking. I said, so, okay, what are the fees? It is $1,800 per bedroom.
Oh my gosh.
$1,800 per bedroom. So we're looking at 4 2-bedrooms and then the 2 for disabled vets, the housing that I want to do for them, which is 2 more bedrooms. So it's 10 plus the commercial space. So $18,000 is what they want for a water sewer impact fee. It's a fee. It's a fee.
Mm-hmm.
So I begged, I pleaded, and then when that didn't work, I brought Sam in, my 6-year-old, and I said, "I'm just saying, if you make him cry, we're gonna have a problem." He cries with big numbers, but
so they're so limiting on what you can build. There's a city where I have my triplexes. They want me to connect to sewer too, and they said you can totally connect to sewer, and then we'll streamline the permits on your 4th unit because it's really an R4. You can have a 4th unit here, and then they went on to explain the fees, and it was $24,000 for the impact fee for 3 ESUs or ERUs, right?
Wow.
So the 4th one would be more. That was okay. So $24,000, I can live with that. But then they said, now we need you to extend your sewer past your property to the people behind you in case they ever want it. And that started around the 200,000 range.
Yeah, no.
So,
jeez.
Yeah, that sounds right. Having you pay for their infrastructure, just so I can then get a massive water and sewer bill. I literally said to her, because it's right. Obviously, it's a police station. It's right downtown. So I said to her, I said, what if, let's just say what if I did a well and septic? She goes, you can't. And I go, oh, it's possible. It's possible. She goes, no, well, it wouldn't get approved. I was like, well, that's more like it. That sounds closer to the truth. So
that's the only way the government can compete, by having a monopoly and making unfair rules.
It's unreal. And then the guy goes, and then so I was talking to one of the building inspectors, and he goes, well, at least your permit isn't like the guys down the street. And I go, the one who's putting up 156 brand new units? He goes, yeah. He goes, well, his was almost 300,000. I go, he's doing 156 brand new units. I would think so. Right. So, but anyway, it's is what it is. But when people sit there and go, oh, they're making so much money. Really? What I spend in a week would choke a donkey. Like literally this week alone, I think I spent about $65,000 this week. So many and very often people that have no clue are sitting there in the comments going, greedy landlords. You can't even spell impact fee.
I get part of that because real estate investing and an investor is always broke.
Yes.
And we're always out of time because investing takes so much time.
It does.
Real estate ownership, once we've stabilized, optimized, and you don't have impact fees and you don't have permit processes, you don't have all that kind of stuff. Yeah. You might get to enjoy the fruits of your labor at some point.
Yeah. After 20 years or 10 years or 15 years.
Do we want to cover the topic this morning, or do we want to jump into some of the questions that are showing up in the comments? Because I've got a few on mine that I don't know if they show up in your StreamYard or not.
So let me run through them. So we see all the hellos. I'm going to skip those just for today's sake. The super secret Friday live, Luke Devine, Ryan Hustler. What up, guys? Surprise Friday live. Yes, sir. Ben Fopel. One of my main lenders is a stock employee through this bank, not a contact from the president. Rookie move. How can I deepen the relationship with the bank without pulling rank on my current lender? That's it. You can ask them to make an introduction for you. You can say, hey, I'd like to do more business with your bank, but I'd like to understand, kind of more strategically, what the bank is trying to accomplish. And likely, Ben, that guy has no clue who that person is. And so the person that you're asking for is likely going to be the senior lender. Can that guy get him on the phone or her on the phone? I doubt it. But they might be able to. So I would at least ask them first. But then if they don't make that happen, you lose nothing by going around them. It's just that simple. I mean, I always give my people a shot. And then if they can't get it done and can't make it happen, then I have to do it. And so that's what I would do. Do you guys have any input on Ben's question?
Well, whenever it comes to lenders, I know that lenders really can't do much unless you put a competitor's price sheet in their hand and say, here's what you're competing with to keep my business. You either need to match it if they were the original or beat it if they're a new.
Yep.
In terms of when I go with lending, I have not gone with a local bank, certainly not a big box bank ever. I always go with mortgage lenders or mortgage brokers, and the relationship that you have, at least that I've had with the mortgage broker, because their mission is going to be different from that local community bank that it sounds like he's talking about. They're going to have different goals. And so, the mortgage broker, you may have a good relationship with them, but I've never seen a need to go over their head to anybody. I've always been able to resolve everything directly with whoever it is right there, just writing the loan.
So, Mike, when you start, you should reach out to a local lender, like a local bank in Gary.
Yeah.
Because you're getting so big there.
Closed on another fourplex 2 days ago.
That's awesome. Because you're getting so big there, you need to be talking to other banks there, because then maybe they can help you lever debt on these assets. Got to be doing that.
That is the plan. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Got to be doing that.
I need to add that to my to-do list of 5,000 other things that I've got going on.
This one should be in your top 5.
True.
Definitely should be in your top 5. So hello, everybody. Mick, hello, boys. Tell me your thoughts on Space Coast, Florida. I don't have any thoughts on Space Coast. You guys?
So I have a few thoughts, and it's all related to Florida. First, you can track population trends. You can go to uhaul.com, see where all their trucks are moving, and you can see that there's an influx of population to Florida. So it seems like, hey, this is the place you want to invest. Then you go a level deeper and you think, okay, what's going on with property insurance in Florida? A lot of the agencies are just pulling out, not insuring. The age of the building and the elevation of the foundation can have a huge impact on what your flood insurance is going to be, to the tune of $1,000 a year versus $8,000 a year. So research each property as a standalone when you're looking at your flood insurance. The other thing with there was one other thing with Florida where one of my friends, I call them, they're probably my closest friends that moved to Florida. They moved from Arizona to Florida, and they stayed there for the last couple of years. They lived in Cape Coral. I actually went there for 2 months, studied the market with them. I scuba dove for 2 months, but I studied the market for them. That made it a tax write-off to be there. And Cape Coral was growing massively, and everyone told them for years that this is the area you want to own in because hurricanes never hit here because of blah, blah, blah land shape. And then Ian took it out. Entire town just destroyed everything, basically. And so they're moving to Tennessee for a few reasons. So I'd look at all of the aspects of owning in Florida, not so much that it's the Space Coast area. It's how far is an evacuation from there? How often are the evacuations from there? Is your property ready for that? And can your cash flow handle the spiky nature of insurance changes that can happen in the next couple of years?
Sure. And Dion, I'm assuming you're seeing all the same questions that I see, right?
I didn't see most of those, but then I saw the Mick one, so I think they're blended somehow.
They are.
I just saw a super chat come in.
They link. Yep. Let's hit the super chat. So super chat is Miss K. Hi, everybody. Hi, Miss K. That's probably that's Senya, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Senya. Dylan McMahon. I thought copper pipes were pretty malleable. Nope, they aren't. My friends just burst and were pretty new. What type do you recommend? So copper is a great product. It's still what you want coming off of boilers, coming off of heating systems, coming off of, hot water tanks, but then you convert it into PEX. And at the end of the day, PEX is more resilient than copper in my eyes, because usually you have a seamless line with PEX and very, 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 very few, 90s or connectors. And that's kind of the beauty of PEX. If you set it up on a manifold where you have a big, huge line where all the lines plug into, and then each one of them is run separately to each one of these units, that's actually the cleanest application you can get. So copper is usually more of an old timers thing, or if they're doing it fresh install, it's usually more of an old timer thing. And I can tell you, living in the Northeast, Siberia, I can tell you that burst pipes happen if you don't have some source of heat in a basement, or if you have an area where there's any airflow. Airflow is what gets you frozen pipes, not just cold air. So it's about airflow that's freezing over that, because it blows over that and it will eventually solidify the water. That's why people will leave their sinks dripping when it's freezing cold outside, is because the water's still moving enough where even if air is blowing over it, it's not going to actually freeze you up.
So Neil deGrasse Tyson did a better job of explaining this than I will with the PEX pipes, and that the amount of resistance that they have for the water expansion is what creates the heat to stop the PEX from breaking. Copper doesn't do that. Yep. It doesn't create the right amount of resistance. So what you'll generally have in a newer updated home is PEX running through seamlessly through your place. And then when you get to the point where it's coming out of the wall for the sink, for the toilet, for the whatever, you're going to have a short piece of copper with a 90 so that you have a rigid form coming out of the wall that you can connect your stop faucets to. But that copper only goes in the wall and at a short distance, and then it connects to PEX. So I've seen some people say that in certain situations, PEX can do better, but I pretty much rip it out and put PEX in anywhere that I own all the time.
Yeah, copper. I'm not a fan of copper, but it's also very expensive. And then when you have a downturn and there's vacancies, like in Gary or places like that, it's the first thing that gets stolen. So the best thing to do is put it in PEX, because then they rip nothing of value. You can rip an entire house that's PEX, and with the amount of copper that you're going to get from that, it's worth about $17. It's nothing, because it's just like one foot piece after another connected through everything. Josh Burdick, I'm leaving Washington today for a cross-country trip to Missouri to pick up a classic car. I love it. I want to know what kind of car. Probably look at markets on the way. Good opportunity to play content for my 18-year-old. Absolutely. All-nighter. There he is. I'll be listening, but he's got to keep working. I agree. Let's see. Dylan McMahon. Why do people subdivide land? Best reason that they subdivide land is because it can give them more buildings on the same piece of land. At its core, when you buy a big piece of land, it is, let's say, $100,000. And if you can find a way to subdivide it, you might get two $75,000 pieces of land. So people subdivide land because it's an inexpensive way to create wealth. They're actually their nickname is kind of land barons. And what they really do is they really buy land and they split it up. That's all they do their entire lives. They'll buy 100-acre tracts, 200-acre tracts, 500-acre tracts. There's a great video on my channel of a guy who basically makes $1 million a year on dirt. Great video. Loved working with the guy. He's really smart, and all he does is land. He buys big chunks of it, and then some stuff he will do the whole tree thing, like Dion's family. They'll do the whole tree thing and take out all the expensive trees. On other stuff, he'll clear it. On other stuff, he won't clear it. So there's a number of different things you can do. Sometimes it's just mineral rights. So it really runs the gamut. But yeah, you'll see that video on the channel. It was actually pretty cool watching what the guy did.
There's the lady, I think she emceed the last Bigger Pockets meetup. She invests in Seattle, basically buys properties with houses on it, subdivides to build a second house, or sells off the subdivision, basically getting the first part that she's keeping for free.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
At a profit, right?
Lots of options. I mean, that's one of the things that I've seen guys do for a long time. What most people don't understand about builders is that they'll build a 20-track home and they make all their money when the last 3 sell, when the last 3 or 4 sell. Otherwise, all the money that was in that project, all the paying that they're doing, all of that stuff, that's all done. So when they're literally making their money off those last few lots / houses. Dean, you want to do the next one?
Sure. It's Dylan here.
Yep.
After subdivide, we talked about the water, having the tenants leave the water dripping so that it doesn't freeze. If you default and property covers bank, you keep cash flow. What if it doesn't, but you have non-recourse? That sounds like if it says if you default, you're losing the property. You're not keeping the cash flow if it's defaulted.
Nope.
So,
in fact, it actually says in your loan docs, any dollar that you get in rent, they are due it. So yeah, you're not getting around anything like that. Legacy Op, happy Friday. Another great year not paying taxes legally. Agreed.
Attaboy.
So long as you're not paying taxes legally. I can tell you, I spent time with the IRS. Wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad.
Avoid, not evade.
Yes, true story. Very simple, minor change, but it means all the world. Mm-hmm. Let's see. How does septic work? Heard it has limits, like how many gallons you use a day. Yeah, there's a bunch of calculations. It's usually driven off of the number of bedrooms, and almost every state has. You have to have somebody that has a septic design stamp that actually stamps the drawings, and usually there's a flat fee for that. Then you can bring those to the state, and then you can do, you can kind of do whatever you want at that point, but it's already because it's based on designs. You can then hire anybody to then build out that design.
And on the math, on a decade of information right now, I have spent tens of thousands of dollars more on my properties that have sewer than my properties that have septic. A complete, fully replaced septic system was still $40,000 less than what that property would have paid with sewer charges.
It's so true.
Connecting or impacting literally just the monthly fee. And then if there ever was a roots problem at my properties, that's a you problem still, even if it's sewer.
Dion, are you doing your sewer and well, or are you any mix of city?
So I've got one well.
Yep.
The rest are city water.
Yep.
And then I'm 50% sewer, 50% septic.
Wow. Okay.
And the sewer has cost, I want to say 10, but it's probably more like 7 times what my sewer expenses have ever been. My septic expenses have ever been, even with a full replacement system.
That's not wrong. What most people didn't realize in one of the cities that we do stuff in, the water rates and the water sewer rates in the last 3 years have doubled. We used to be about $300 per quarter on a duplex, between $200 and $300 a quarter on a duplex, and now it's $500 to $600 a quarter on a duplex.
Oh yeah, I'm per month at this duplex in Port Orchard, which is in city limits and it's city sewer. A vacant, empty duplex, not connected, no water in it because it's being rehabbed, is $180 a month for that unit, just the unit. So then this unit also has that too, versus 0 expenses for septic, for years, and then maybe you have a repair.
It's infuriating. It's infuriating. And it's just, here's the thing. This is why I don't rush to convert all of my properties to natural gas. When they control your heating system and how you get heat, like oil, you can buy from, you don't like one company, there's 70 others you can buy it from. That's one of the things that I like about keeping some of the places oil. The only downside is that no one ever thinks to put stuff on automatic delivery. And so I end up going out and having to restart at least 4 or 5 systems a year.
How many people are on your live right now?
50.
50. Okay. Because I can't tell with the way we're doing it since I'm like live on my phone or something, but I have an announcement I would like to make.
Okay.
Old guy REI, Frank Contreras.
Yes.
Has volunteered his time.
Okay.
To fly to Washington.
Okay.
To spend a week with me and Mike.
Oh.
And to tile my other unit. He's going to teach me how to tile, really. It's really what he's coming for. So
huge win for you guys. What a massive L for him.
I know. I'm sorry he has to hang out with me and Mike. It sucks. But I'm super excited about that. I'm looking forward to spending the time because it's not so much about getting something done. It's about getting something done by somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then me seeing all the tricks that he's doing while he's doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Dion, I don't know why it matters. You're never going to do another flip again.
But whenever I have a room, because I won't be doing a flip or a burr or anything, but I will rehab units. And if there's a bad shower, I'm going to rip it out, or a bad tub, I'm going to put in a shower. I've got one I'm thinking of doing that. And so when I hire somebody to do it, I will know the scope of the work.
Yeah. Josh Burdick asks, what do you guys think about the squatter issues in the media recently? I can't wait. Did Sean Cannell's videos hit yet?
Which ones?
Think Media? Have his
I've
hit yet?
seen, I think Coach Carson's came out. I haven't seen anybody else's on there.
The reason I ask is because he asked me that question. He put me on the spot, didn't tell me he was going to ask me the question. He goes, hey, so in the news, there's a bunch of this squatter stuff happening. How would you deal with a squatter? And my answer for how I would deal with a squatter was as follows. I would have one of my friends, I would have them sign a lease.
Yeah, me and Mike, we'd go move into your unit.
Yeah, I literally would sign you guys to a lease, have you guys move in, and then you guys can call the cops because he's trespassing and you're under lease. That's exactly that's why the whole illegal squatter thing. I mean, you could do the Jesse Lee thing and toss the guy downstairs, but I don't recommend it, but I think that, that from my perspective, I thought it was an easy question. I'm surprised that more people don't do it that way because it's really about possession, not about ownership. Mm-hmm. You guys are possessing the property. Mike, you might know a little bit about that in your day job. Is there any reason why that wouldn't work?
That would absolutely work. So
awesome.
One of the things that we're going to get to here in a little while is a video that was sent to us from Michelle Meyer talking about how people are taking advantage of squatters' rights. But realistically, what it ends up being for the police and what's so frustrating for the homeowner and what's also so unfair is that when the police officer gets called out there, this is now a civil issue. Any contract law like marriage, businesses, and certainly landlord-tenant contract law is all civil issue. It's not criminal. Police officers enforce criminal law. And then if a judgment comes from a civil lawsuit, then they may enforce that judgment in the case of like an eviction. And so what's frustrating is that, they call the police, sorry, they're claiming to be a tenant, which is the standard in some states. All they have to do is claim to be a tenant. And in other states, they actually have to show proof that they're a tenant, that they've been there for 30 days. So for some people, that might be, here's mail delivered to this address with my name on it, which, again, is extremely easy to fake. Or here's a bill from a hospital that I had sent to this address, which is, again, very easy to fake. Or one that I've seen quite frequently that gets talked about by these squatters on things like TikTok is they'll say, find a property that's vacant, go on the MLS, go on Zillow, find a property that's for rent. Now go find a fake lease. Google the property owner, write their name and information on the lease, write your name and information on the lease. Now you can take this lease to a utility company and say, I am the tenant for this property. Sign me up for electric, sign me up for internet, sign me up for water, some bill, some utility. Now you go squat. The police come out and you show, here's my fake lease. Here's my utilities. You can't evict me. This is a civil issue. And the cops have to go, we're done. Now, what's very frustrating is that if that homeowner tries to take things into their own hands, change the locks, step in, throw you out, well, now that homeowner is actually breaking criminal law. And so one of the videos I just watched was a lady goes to her house that her mom had just passed away. She inherits the house. She goes to the house. She's trying to get some things. People have moved in. They're not there, but she can tell some people have moved in. So she changes the locks. Well, they come back, call the cops on her. She goes to jail. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable how easy it is to take advantage of the system if you're in the wrong state.
Yeah, in our state, that's not really a thing. Siberia has its privileges.
Yeah, so does Indiana.
Yes, it does. Well, I mean, Mike, that would be Squatters Village. They'd have to rename Squatters Village.
Squat in mine? Just go next door.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Hunter's not even in the building doing the work. He's
right.
He's able to live next door. So I saw Cody Davis did a super chat. Cody, thanks, pal. Hope you're doing well. He said meowdy, just in case you missed it, Dion. But good to see you, Cody. Cody doing Cody things and lighting it up with his new small business. Love that for him. Obviously, elite success, and you don't even have to say even at under 24 years old. You can just say elite success. That's what he is.
So Cody and Christian are co-hosting the event that Mike and I are going to May 3rd and 4th in Vancouver, Washington, called the Northwest Action Summit.
Nice. And Zuber's going to be
there. Well, Zuber's keynote speaking. He'll be there, right?
Keynote.
Yeah. I don't want to downplay that. Right.
He's getting on a plane. I didn't even know it was possible.
I don't know that she'll be at the event, Mike, but I think Olivia's going with him. So we might be able to say
really? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, cool.
What the hell is going on?
I know.
I know.
Dogs and cats living together. That's crazy.
Unbelievable. This is insanity. Another super chat. Dion is my father. Dion, is that actually your son, or is that one of your?
No, because then that first line is I own a rental, and my kids are not into it. So.
Yeah, I gotcha. So Dion is my father. I mean, prove it. Hey, Dad. I currently have a great cash flowing fourplex. I'm going for more. Is there any advantage in going with less properties, more doors, i.e. 4 and 3 plexes, or more properties for same doors, e.g. single family homes and duplexes? Dion, talk to your son.
Okay, so son. Very sorry about my choice in mothers. But, if my portfolio was very small and I was just starting out and that was my first property, I'm a fan of having duplexes that are at least 10 miles apart so that I'm not pulling tenants from the same sources. If you have 2 fourplexes and the new fourplex is next to only 1 or 2 economic drivers and there's a shift in the local economy, all of your units can be impacted. It does make more sense to only have one roof, one foundation, right? One place that a handyman or contractor can get familiar with. So there is a benefit. As your portfolio grows, I preferred fourplexes for the last couple of purchases. I found a duplex that made the most sense. So it really comes down to the Michael Zuber answer of when you're hunting for properties from a single family to a small multifamily to a multifamily, which one has the best yield? Now, I stop at single and small multifamily because I like that 30-year fixed rate debt. But if you're looking for something really just emotional, I like spread out properties more than consolidated properties.
Yeah. Mike, you want to add anything to that? Even though he's not your son.
You're right. He's my brother because Dion's also my father.
So. Mike wants to just inherit everything. So we got to put that in the will.
I'd find a different dad because he's not leaving anything to his kids. So just FYI. Yeah.
Mike's going to help me find the 18-year-old to marry when I'm 74.
Dion, you need to blow several million in net worth. Let's go find somebody. This is Miss Crystal.
I want to make sure those last 6 to 18 months are a lot of fun.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right, but to the question, I started out with single family. Well, my first house property was a duplex I house hacked. But when I went to Gary, Indiana, I started doing single family houses. And single family houses worked okay in a market like Gary, where prices were super low, interest rates were super low, and you could make a little bit of profit. But in my personal opinion, I've said this in a couple of live streams, a couple of my past videos, I don't think turnkey is the model right now. I don't think single family is the model right now. I think 2 to 4 unit buildings are where you have to play. Once you go larger than 4 units, it gets complicated. And certainly single family, there's just not enough spread. I think you're seriously doing a disservice if you think that you can play the single family game in this market here and now. You should be looking at 2 to 4 unit buildings. And I closed on a fourplex 2 days ago. So there's the proof of the pudding.
How many units is that now, Mike?
25 with another duplex under contract.
That's awesome. All seller finance?
No, the fourplex was paid for cash, and it's a full gut rehab. So I'm going to do the BRRRR strategy on it. I was able to talk them all the way down to $27,000 for this fourplex. It needs, I got a quote from the contractor, signed contract with them, $95,000 to completely remodel all 4 units. That includes brand new plumbing, brand new electrical, brand new HVACs, brand new kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, walls, landscaping, decks, everything start to finish on this thing. 95
Kitchens?
grand. It'll be worth $350 to $400 when it's done.
Kitchens?
Kitchens and everything. Yeah. Whoa. Don't get offended.
Are we doing cabinets in here? Are we doing cabinets? Or are you going to use some cheapo depot cabinets?
Probably a cheapo depot, because I don't know what their brand is, but I would imagine it's probably Home Depot.
We're going to talk. You can't put that shit in there. I will fly out. I have time. I will fly out there and I will say that shit doesn't go in this
Mike, at the new unit that I'm at, I went through Matt's course, did his cabinets for the unit that I'm in. And because they were just in stock, I did the Lowe's cabinets for downstairs. It's night and day. Like, you can't, it's not even, like, it's hard to believe they're in the same duplex, right? Mm-hmm. So,
and is it night and day on price? You can tell.
I'm trying to think. Maybe a 5% difference for the super cheap, probably going to fall apart in three years ones versus the ones that we got through you that all have, as long as I have the property, probably. Yeah.
So we do. So that's the issue. That's why. So I did a dealership where I had to prove storefront and EINs and the whole 9 yards, and I just wholesale them. So people in my course get them. Millennial Mike and Dion, they're obviously in the course, but
so you're paying a little more than you would the depot ones, but you're getting 3 times the quality.
It's not even close. Right. In fact, Mike, I'm going to go visit when it's done, and I'm going to go slam all the doors and all the drawers.
Don't do that when you come here.
Downstairs. Perfect.
I've seen the cabinets. I've seen the ones in Dion's place upstairs, and they're very nice.
Next time you come over, Mike, I think you're coming over this weekend. I'll show you the countertops are on, the sink is in.
I just want the
real place.
Yeah.
How long is Frank going to be there, Dion?
I pick him up tomorrow morning, and he's here till he probably leaves early Wednesday. So if you're here tomorrow afternoon or Sunday, that'd be great.
I got my schedule adjusted. I might have to come Monday, Tuesday, because those are now my days off. But I'll be there. So
cool. Yep. Adam asks, Mike, is your cash flow going to be more than Lumberjacks when all is said and done? The answer is yes.
Well, I mean,
you got to catch up on making kids to balance it out.
Oof, yikes.
No, you don't. Yeah. No, that is wrong. That just means you're spending.
That means, that's what I mean.
No, it's bueno.
Just trying to have a family on every continent.
Right. Mike's is my hope for Mike is that his cash flow is bigger than mine, because that means that Dion and I did our part and we helped him get there. And that's what our job is. We've gotten to where we want to get to. Dion's thinking about fewer units. I'm thinking about fewer units. I don't really care to grow. The only deals that I buy are deals that are super weird, that have a ton of upside with limited downside. So the stuff that I'm swinging at now, it might end up being a single, but it also might end up being like a double grand slam for a sports ball reference, Dion. And so there's the last 2 deals that I've done are absolute, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity, but they were complete dice rolls based on 20 years experience, having all the right attorneys, knowing all the processes, this not being my first rodeo, having cities and towns that support me. Those are 20-year deals, right? Those are deals you can only do after you've done it for 20 years. They are not deals you can do in year 3 because you really need the support of everybody, including the city and everybody else. So I'll let Mike answer the question, but my hope is that his dwarfs mine and that, he's the next Ken McElroy with better hair.
Well, try to keep the flow glowing as long as I can, but we'll see. That hairline, I mean, We'll see. When it comes to my cash flow goals, I do not have an upper end limit either for cash flow or doors. I am the type of person who has to be working on something. I cannot sit still. I've never been like that. So when I talk about retiring, what I mean is I just want to retire from getting shot at on a regular basis. Not that I don't want to have projects and things that I want to do and a city that I want to turn around from where it's at now to where I know it could be, given the tax benefits of that city, and the location of that city on Lake Michigan, the potential for Gary to do a complete 180 if the right company comes in there. And I just had somebody send me an article that said a company that was looking at bringing 16,000 trade skill jobs is seriously considering that area, which would just be complete turnaround. And so when I retire from being a police officer, I don't ever want to stop investing. Now, how long would it take for my cash flow to eclipse the lumberjack landlords? You got to remember, he is continually going to gain the effects of inflation on rent. And he's so much further ahead that I have to increase at such a greater rate than him that it would be such a long time before we probably saw that. But who knows? We'll see.
We got a 14-year delta between us in age, though.
Yeah.
So if I stop or even start reducing, you're still in growth mode, and you'll be in growth mode. Even if you're just in growth mode until as old as I am, that's still 14 more years of growth mode. Right. And, you can, and in the market that you're in, there's much better margin. You sought out, you became the king of Gary, searching out a market that had great margins, and what will yours look like 3 years from now or 5 years from now or 10 years if that city turns? Like, you're going to make my 30% returns look dwarfed. I mean, you'll make 50 and 60% returns, and so that's the way I see that going. I mean, what Mike did was very dangerous and very smart. It was absolutely both. It was very dangerous and it was also very smart. It was dangerous because if you build it, they still might not come. But we had talked about it, and he had said, I said, I would love to know how many vouchers they have with Section 8 there. And he was like, yeah, I don't know, but let's find out. And so he found out, and what is it, like 2,500?
They have 2,700 vouchers. Oh. They have issued 2,650 of those 2,700, but issued does not mean housed. Issued means they've given vouchers out. The actual amount of vouchers that are currently housed is only 650.
Dude.
So there's over 2,000 still.
2,000 people that still need housing, and they have a voucher.
Families that have vouchers.
Unbelievable. Right. That is ridiculous. Like, in my area, I don't know. I was going to ask Dion this. In my area, there's no more vouchers. They've run out. They maxed out of vouchers in 3 of my 4 towns.
So it's the same for me and Mike. They've closed it. Not only that, so they ran out of vouchers, and then you had a 5-year wait list to get your voucher.
Correct.
The wait lists are closed in both Gary and Washington.
Well, but the good thing with Gary, though, is you still have 2,000 people unhoused, or 2,000.
Same thing with Washington. The wait list is filled. The vouchers are all used. I have a unit coming open. I'm probably going to reach out to the housing authority and say, here's the link. I'll have 20 applicants from the housing authority before the link is live.
Yeah, agreed. We saw the same thing. There was another super chat. Rob, Mike is making
one more point on that. Sorry, real quick, Matt. And this is something that probably you would appreciate. Even if all the vouchers are taken, when I know I bring a better product than the current landlord,
of course,
where do the Section 8 tenants want to go?
Not with those shitty cabinets.
Oh, come on. All right. One knock. Hey, at least they have cabinets, man. You should see some of these properties they got out there in Indiana. I tell you what, I love slumlords. I keep buying cheap properties from them.
Yeah, we grading on a curve now, Mike. Come on now. We're doing a cabinet, at least in one of those units, and you can see the difference. Taste it, touch it, feel it. Rob says Mike is turning Hyder into a Gary local. It's true. Yeah. Not a bad thing. I mean, San Diego's a beautiful place to live, but boy, is it expensive. Yeah. And then Mike, can you read that?
Hey, Mike, I have 100 keys of snow coming through Seattle this weekend. Can you turn a blind eye? You'll be well compensated.
Not out loud, Mike.
Yikes. So for those of you who don't get those references, G Lover is wheeling and dealing.
Oh my goodness.
And it doesn't snow in Seattle. So.
Yeah, it's true. BuzzTune, thanks for the 199 super chat. I thought I'd jump. Drive to FI. I thought I'd jump over to Dion's channel from Lumberjacks to say howdy. Good to have you here always. Dancing alone with rentals. Get Crockett and Tubbs out here. Crockett. Yeah, I know, right? That's a great Miami Vice reference. Cody Davis. By the way, you can get 30-year fixed rate debt, no balloon, up to 10 units. Yes, that's true. Yep, that's true. It's honestly, when Fannie Freddie approved that, it made me millions of dollars richer. It just did overnight, because now people can buy stuff with 5% down, and fixed rate debt. Strider, all nines. I won't say all the nines. Howdy, gents from Las Vegas. Because of all the advice I have gained from you gents, starting my own business, specializing in loan signing and notary, using the funds gained for investing. Thanks. Strider, I have a story for you, and it's the actual God's honest truth. I was closing on a deal, not this last trip, but the trip before. I was closing on a deal when I was in Las Vegas with my family. I went to 13 places to get a notary. 13. Bank of America, you bunch of douchebags. I walked into 2 of them, and they said, well, you don't have an account with us. I said, I do. I have a mortgage with you guys. They're like, but you don't have an account with us. What do you think a mortgage is, Momo? Like, so literally a notary service in Las Vegas, you make sure that you email me, and that way when I'm out there, I can still get deals done, because we literally drove for 2 hours. 2 hours. My wife and I drove because we had to both sign. We were 2 hours. We drove around looking for a notary, and we couldn't get a notary.
UPS stores every time. I have to do a lot of mobile closing.
I went into one. You know how much they wanted? Because it's a mortgage. I had to sign. So it was a mortgage. And so each time you do it, it's like $30 or $40 each one they notarize. So to notarize the entire mortgage, they were literally going to charge me $800.
What the hell?
They were charging me per signature that they notarize. And every single page was me and Ashley. And so it was like $800 or $900 they wanted. And I said to her, so when she first started, she didn't tell me how much. I said, can you guys notarize? She said, yep, absolutely. I said, okay, great. She goes, let me just finish with these customers first. I said, sure, no problem. But there's no pricing on the walls. And so I said to her, I'd like to understand. So before we do this, I need to know what's this going to cost me? She goes, well, it's $40. I said, oh, okay. She goes, well, $40 per person. I said, oh, that's fine. Well, it's $40 per person per signature. And I was like, F off.
Yeah.
It was like, so UPS stores, yes. But here's the other thing. I went to 3 of those. Only one of them had a notary. And then she told me what the price was. And that was obviously on the third one. And I was just like, honestly, this is ridiculous. And so congratulations to Strider. I know your business will work out. Just make sure you advertise the hell out of yourself, because, I would have Facebook ads, do whatever you can to do that, because I looked it up and I couldn't get a bank to do it. I couldn't get UPS to do it for anything less than a king's ransom. So awesome stuff for you. Yeah. Santi 33143 in Miami, to get yield, I have to pay cash 4%. Well, then that's not a market you do business in. You guys have any thoughts on that? Dion?
Boys, getting a 4% return on cash, I wouldn't like it, because you don't have levered depreciation. You don't have levered appreciation. You don't have inflation-based debt destruction, that thing that Cody loves and talks about, right? Yeah. How far out do you have to go until you hit that equilibrium between price and rents where you can start doing levered purchases? I would still house hack, right? If you have to live there, if there's some reason that you're stuck living there, house hacking becomes more important in a higher cost of living area. It has more of an impact than house hacking in a cheaper place. But that is why Zuber went from Sacramento to Fresno. It's why Mike is investing in Gary.
Yep. Dancing Alone with Rentals, what's the cabinet brand we speak of? I don't share that brand because technically I'm not supposed to wholesale it. Because I'm set up as a retailer. Technically, I'm not supposed to wholesale it. But I do, and that's why I won't share the brand. But suffice to say, Dion's seen them, touched them, felt them. Mike's even seen them, touched them, felt them, but apparently he hasn't been in a Home Depot or a Lowe's recently to see and touch and feel what he would actually be buying. Michael, we will fix this. Don't worry. We'll get you a nice kitchen. I might even take what you've got for a budget that they're already giving you and just ask them what the allocation is for cabinets.
Sure.
And then we'll take that and we'll work our magic. Friends don't let friends buy shit. I can't do it.
No, where were you guys when I got a wedding ring?
Yeah.
About to say the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Afro-capitalist. My screen just moved. For those new to Gary, would you recommend duplex over single family now? Good question.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes. And shout out to Afro-capitalist. He is taking me up whenever I tell people, yeah, believe it or not, I started documenting YouTube videos before I ever even bought a rental. He went back and left a comment on like my first 50 videos. Yeah. So absolutely, I would start with 2 to 4 units. Absolutely, I would start. The only exception would be if you find a huge single family house that happens to have a kitchen upstairs and downstairs, like the single family house I bought in October that I turned into a duplex. Other than that, 2 to 4 unit buildings.
Yeah. Jared Oshemine, I absolutely love the community all of you guys have built. I really feel like the community is growing pretty fast, and we are now starting to help out other future investors. The small ball effect. I agree. I mean, Mike Zuber was the one who started it. I think Millennial Mike was the first one on his show, and then I started sending Zuber emails because I was tired of watching his show with no one represented from the East Coast. Yeah, and so I started sending him emails and stuff. And then it was really funny. And then Dion, you guys somehow got connected, and then you said you hated me and we wouldn't work together or something like that.
So great way to put it. Let's just leave it like that. That's way better than the truth. So no, me and Zuber got connected. I did an interview on his channel. And then like about a year later, I was on the Bigger Pockets show and I got his name wrong, right? Because I like one rental at a time, but I never really thought or processed his name. So on Bigger Pockets, I call him Gruber instead of Zuber. So that's still there forever.
I mean, Michael maybe he was falling off the Nakitomi Village. Maybe that's what was happening.
There you go. And he started having you on the channel, and I reached out and I said, hey, I'd like to come every week because I would give this different perspective. So it wasn't that I didn't like Matt, the lumberjack landlord. I said, Mike, you have 100 and something units. Matt has 100 and something units. There might not be that many, but I think there's some people who would like to have a smaller portfolio and just reach financial freedom. And so it was kind of a comparison to me and you as to why I wanted to start coming on the channel. Does that make sense?
Well, I understand it.
And it's not you. It's trying to explain. I don't want 100 units to somebody like Zuber in the beginning was like, he's like, but why?
Well, the whole funny thing is like one of those things. So Alex Hormozy has a new short out that I completely identify with. He's basically like, I don't read a book a week. I haven't read a book cover to cover in 3 decades. He's like, and I don't have avocado toast, body not built by avocado toast. But he goes through this whole entire long list. He's like, and I don't set goals either. I don't set goals. I didn't set the goals to get to 100 units. Literally what I did the math and just said, this deal works. And that's the position that Millennial Mike's in right now, is in that explosive goal area, or not having goals, growth area. It's just, does this deal crush? And if the deal crushes, I do the deal. And that's where Mike is. Mike is, hyper growth mode. At the same time too, Dion couldn't do that same thing because of the cost of his market. Like, falling down duplex that, looks like Swiss cheese is $500,000. And Mike just closed on a quadplex for 27 G's. Like, not on me, but in my other pants, I have that available, and so you've got that kind of money where you can buy a quad for 27 grand. It's awesome. It's awesome. But the thing is the margins, right? And that's where everybody on here that talks about, my market doesn't work like Miami. I can buy the building for cash and I'm making 4% on my money. Like, I wouldn't buy into a market where I have to buy it for cash and I only make 4% at that. I'll just stay in bed and make 5.5 with it sitting in a bank account. I mean, just because then you can take your time and go do something else. Cause it's not a zero net time thing. I want to really answer Karen's question. What do you recommend for kitchen countertops, and what are you putting on bathroom floors? Me personally, I like butcher block because it's so much less expensive than quartzite, or granite. And Dion, if you haven't watched Dion's or seen pictures of his stuff, Dion, what was that? Was that like a walnut? The butcher block that you used?
So it's two different versions. I did one downstairs that's a lighter color, one upstairs that's a darker color. I don't remember the name. I just like the color.
I think it was a walnut. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I'll be putting pictures out on Insta here. I'm sure pretty soon.
I'm sorry, what?
I said that for Mike's benefit.
Yeah, I know. I'm shocked.
Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send everything to Dragos, and I'm going to say, "Here you go. Work your magic."
And he'll just respond with one emoji. The saluting one.
Watching the shorts lately. That's Mike's fault. Mike connected me with the guy that's doing those. So
you're welcome.
He's doing amazing, and it's great because I try to communicate with him, and he doesn't speak English, but he picks the clips for the shorts where it's you starting a thought and you wrap it up like. For not speaking English, he's killing it.
He's so good. Mike and Millennial Mike found him. Mike, how old is he?
21.
And what's funny is I went through my emails. I clicked email because I want to respond to Dragos for something, right? Like about TikTok or whatever. And I see all of our emails. There's like 30 emails back and forth from the one that Mike connected. And then like a year ago, there's one from Dragos reaching out saying, "Hey, I see you have a YouTube channel. I'd like to connect and help you with your shorts." But I have like, I don't know how many you get. I get like 20 to 30 of those a week,
a
right?
day. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Crazy.
So he had reached out. Mike connected us. I just missed my radar completely. So anybody starting a channel, we've got a guy that can help.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He really is fantastic. Dancing with One with Rentals. Yes, so they did have butcher block slabs. Not particularly quality. And I
just bought some. They're like, I think it was $300 for 6 or 8 feet, and it was $400 for the 10-foot because I got a 10-foot slab because I needed like 8 feet 4 inches, so it couldn't be 8 foot. And then so I got the 10-foot, and then I took that extra, and that's a small slab to cover one of my smaller boxes next to the stove or something. So it's all usable.
Would you get those from IKEA?
Because this is a me thing though. It has nothing to do. I can't say positive or negative about IKEA. If you take out Lowe's and Home Depot, I haven't been in a store in 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? And I can't imagine going into an IKEA. I just have me issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I go to Lowe's or Home Depot, they got the app in right where I'm going. I get in and out. So I prefer those places for that. If I had to go outside of Lowe's and Home Depot, I'd probably order somewhere and have it delivered.
I think that IKEA is not the place I would buy my butcher block. Just isn't. I would buy it from a Lowe's or a Home Depot or a Lumber Liquidators. If you watch Lumber Liquidators, very often they have a very low threshold for getting signed on for an account with them. So I always tell people, at least go into your local Lumber Liquidators, have a conversation with them, because very often they say, well, how much flooring are you going to do this year? And if you know that you've got 2 or 3 units that you're going to refloor that year, you can say, yeah, we're probably going to do between 5,000 and 10,000 square feet this year. Just ask, would you be able to sign me up as a dealer or as a contractor for that? Because we buy all of our materials and we provide them to our contractors. They will likely sign you up, and that gets you 10%. Get you 10% off whatever they're selling. So the butcher blocks that they have are also pretty high quality. I've run into some quality issues with some of the big box stores. I've had a couple slabs in the last 3-4 months that we've had to return just because I looked at it and I was like, we could spend an hour and a half getting that right, but I'd rather not. I'd rather just pick one up and go do it.
Yeah, you can fairly inspect them before you go. You want to go to a place that has 2 or 3 to choose from. And
absolutely.
To understand, you have the choice of doing epoxy. I chose to go with polyurethane.
Yep.
And it's just so much easier to apply. It takes less skill, like a brain dead monkey like me can do it. Whereas the epoxy, that takes some skill.
Just follow the instruction.
Right. And then it's very easy to cut. I suggest buying a guide. Buy yourself a guide and a couple of clamps to clamp on your guide to do your cuts. While you do the farmer sink, if you lack the skills to do really good cuts, I recommend doing a drop-in sink.
Yep.
And then you can hide your cuts. It doesn't even have to look pretty. So my first one, I definitely went drop-in sink. The next one I did good enough for a butcher block or for farmer's one, but I did drop in anyway. It was a learning process.
Yeah, I strongly recommend. I'm very interested to hear Dion's take on polyurethane FDA grade in 3 years. I just want to know.
Well, so that's the thing, the way that these are mounted, versus the cost of granite, right? So granite countertops cut and put in would be about $4,000 for what I did, versus I'm less than $1,000, did all the work myself for 2 kitchens, right? If I have to replace everything every 3 years, I'm still 30 years before I break even with granite.
Agreed. The other thing to think about too, Dion, is remember that last project that we worked on where I called all the granite contractors in your guys' area? Yeah. And it was like, I called like 8 or 9 of them, and it was still 3 months between templating and install. And
versus walk in the store, pick it up, take it home, cut it, treat it.
You're done. You're done in a day instead of hoping that you get a template in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And even if that slowed,
looks good too.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Yeah, honestly, look at the pictures Dion did. Like we cover that in our course of how you build that stuff, and it looks just absolutely beautiful. Rob, are you guys still seeing product shortages? Electric meters here for multis are weight in gold. Yes, I'm still seeing that. Have you guys shopped for anything like that recently? Mike, are you doing
get yours finally?
Yeah, mine was on a year back order before they finally came in. They finally came in, and I haven't had to look for anything else since then, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with this fourplex. It has 4 separate meters, but who knows if something needs to be replaced because it hasn't been lived in a while. So we'll see.
Yep. Jack Stewart, doesn't polyurethane take days to dry, or am I thinking of something else? It takes days to cure. It doesn't take days to dry.
Now you can apply a new coat in about 6 hours. I did 3 coats, so basically a day spread out. And then I made sure that nothing got set on it or left on it for like 3 days, just to be super safe.
Yep. That's the right plan. Red Berserker. Hey guys, I had a thought. How much before you have too much in reserves? Not thinking too much on numbers, just wondering when you consider things go from responsible to wasting opportunity. Great question, Red Berserker. Dion, do you want to do that one?
You have too much in reserves when you use cash to hold your desk flat. This is what you use to level out your desk. So I had a fairly simple, exactly. It just lays around. I don't know. My mattress is getting lumpy. But
it's like 1,200 right here.
I got this one guy. This always comes every month, and it's covered in glitter, and he looks like me. So it's not what wherever he's getting it from. I don't know.
Yeah, we all have our stacks. Yep.
It's just terrible.
Yes.
Too much in reserves when I had a small portfolio. And I broke it down mathematically. I picked round numbers because I like simple. 7 units or less, I kept 10 grand. Above that, I wanted buying the next place. When I got up to 16 units, I figured more things could happen at the same time. So I increased it to 30,000, but I had a really decent job at the time, steady job. When I retired, I increased that to 50,000, right? So I don't want more than 50,000 sitting in an account. It should be put to work. And that's in growth mode, right? Now that I'm retired, I don't know that the above 50,000 will get put to work as much as it's probably going to buy stupid things. I don't know what stupid things are yet, but I'll find stupid things to buy.
Yeah. Mike, did you want to answer that?
Yeah. So I think it does make a difference if you're still currently working versus maybe if you're retired. I had a friend who retired with real estate, and he finally was going to start living off of the income from his rentals. And he did not aim for fat fire like Matt. He went for a more lean fire. That wasn't a fat joke, buddy. That was you're a stud. So anyways, he went for a more lean fire, even though he probably didn't think that he was lean fire. He hadn't really stress tested the portfolio prior to his retirement. And I watched him his first 2 years of living off his rental income, and it changed who he was. He was very stressed. He was feeling it. Unplanned repairs sent him into a panic. It was hard. And it finally came out of it with 2 more years worth of rent depreciation, a little more stabilization, a little more optimization. Now he's back to feeling a little bit better. But
he also made a genius move.
Yeah.
He moved from a high cost of living area to a country that is like, I want to go visit him. I want to go say hi to him.
So the first thing he did was move from a low-cost area to a high-cost area. That hurt. And then he left that place and went to another low-cost area where Dion wants to go. And that helped him. And so I would say be aware of that. What do I keep in reserves? Me personally, I was really just kind of cruising at 10,000 for a while. And then once I got over about 15 units, I bumped it up to 25,000. But I also have the benefit of I have a full-time job. I can go out there and make money. And, if I really have to, crush overtime if I have an emergency. Not everybody has that opportunity. So it should be tailored to you specifically. But I would say you at least want to be able to handle 2 simultaneous large expensive issues at one time. And you'll probably be okay.
Yep. I agree. And yeah, I mean, we still have, I haven't touched the 50 grand in there. I mean, you just get to a point where you're doing everything in cash flow, even when something's big. We had a lead order that we had to do. It was $83,000. We just did it out of cash flow. That's all. Just did it out of cash flow. Joshua Melby, do you guys not charge your tenants for water, sewer? Most places here are separately metered for water that a tenant pays for.
So I charge flat fee for water and sewer. So an example of why I complained about this earlier, maybe where this question came from, is I'm paying for that other side of this duplex here, which is being rehabbed, which means there's nobody in it paying it. Once there's a tenant, I'll have to look at what happens locally. Do people incorporate it into the rent, include it in the rent? Do they have a separate fee for it? Do what is normal for the area that you live in? And some areas won't let you charge a penny more than what the tenant is paying. And some areas, municipalities, won't allow it to be put into the tenant's name. So you have a couple of choices. You put it in the lease where you pay the bill. 1 month later, the tenant pays exactly what was billed to you by the city. Or you can do what I do, because we're a little less restrictive in my area. Water is usually around $46 to $51 a month. So I charge $55 or $60 depending on the area. So I'm making a little bit more for a few months of the year. And then in the summer, when it spikes, it goes up to $65 or $70. I don't charge the tenant anymore. I just figure that balances out for the year. So what makes sense in your area? What are other landlords doing? You are also competing against other rentals to make sure that you're not doing something that just looks worse, even if it ends up being the same to the tenants.
Mike, what is it like in Gary?
So I have different, obviously all the single family houses, tenants take care of everything. But I have like some duplexes where everything's individually metered out. I have some multis where electrical and natural gas and trash are metered out, but then the water is the building's water and you just charge. So unfortunately, it's kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different things that are hodgepodge. Ideally, you get your tenants to pay for all of their own utilities because they'll be more cost aware, cost conscious of what they're doing. They won't have the window open with the heat on blast or the windows open with the AC on blast. But sometimes you just can't avoid it. It may not be worth it to spend the money to split the utilities because it might just be a huge cost.
There's a kind of a caveat there too. If the utilities are in the tenant's name, they're going to want to save more, right? And so people think that's two sides to the equation. If it's in their name, they're going to want to save more. If it's in the landlord's name, it doesn't mean they're going to spend more, like because they're not paying attention. It means they're going to spend more because they hate the freaking landlord, right? That evil landlord. They go, oh, this is how I stick it to them. It's not like Mike. They accidentally left the window open. They open all the windows, turn the heat on. So whenever possible, definitely try to have utilities in tenant's name.
I agree, especially heat in Siberia. Ned Talks, what's up, sir? Good to see you. Dancing with Rentals, what are your opinions of tenants these days versus 10 years ago? The news splits that younger adults don't want to, work, and they continue that high school seniors are graduating with 5th grade reading levels.
I'm a
9th grade dropout.
I don't want to hear it. Go ahead.
I'm a 9th grade dropout. Slightly better than a 5th grade reading level. But what I can tell you is that it's largely true. Every year tenants get worse, and it's not just my attitude changing. Every year they get worse. They do. Every year they expect more. I think that, the pandemic broke a lot of people. And I think that there's a lot of people that became accustomed to having paychecks and money show up in their account for not doing anything. And that I think has gotten even more amplified because I have a tenant right now that received $36,000 in free rent for 18 months. She got all of her oil bills paid. She got all of her electric bills paid. And the day, the month that disappeared, she couldn't pay. she paid the second month and paid the third month and paid some on the fourth month. And eventually we just had to say, all right, enough's enough. She went in to meet with welfare. No joke. She went in to meet with welfare, and welfare said to her, you've got both of your kids on a lacrosse travel team, and you spend about $3,000 a month on eating out and stuff. And she says, yeah. And she says, well, if welfare is going to help you, you're going to have to come in 30 days with none of that stuff on there. Otherwise, we're not going to help you again. And and she was basically like, well, those are things that my family needs. And guess what? She got denied. I'm actually proud of welfare, and I get to evict her now. I'm proud of welfare standing up for the fact that when you can do travel lacrosse, when your kids have iPhones, when you are spending $3,000 a month on food and fun and this, that, and the other, sorry, you don't get to ask for more money in the system. And so I think the attitude of entitlement is sadly becoming more and more and more invasive in society. And I think that it's going to do nothing but get worse. And so thankfully, you can build your portfolio around that.
So I agree with you, Matt. And I will say that generational differences are bovine defecation. It's people, right? COVID hit a 50-year-old the same way it hit a 25-year-old with those stimulus checks, the extended unemployment, the extra unemployment, the rent relief programs, forbearance, whatever thing they could do to get free money from somebody. And a lot of people will say it's harder for the younger generation. They don't understand this. And that's BS. We've been hearing that since the last great generation said the boomers were all hippies. Then they said that the 80s and 90s, all we had was video games. And now it's all the internet and social media. If you take statistics and you look at how many homeowners owned a house at the age of 25, right? It's so hard to own a house right now. People just can't do it. Yeah, baby boomers tend to own more because they've had 30 or 40 years to acquire houses or to inherit houses. But then if you take Gen X and millennials, Gen Z owns more homes at the age of 25 than millennials and Gen X. So it's not so much an age factor as at what general age was a generation when COVID hit? At what general age was a generation when the 2008 housing crash hit? So we can look at some statistics like, yeah, millennials kind of got screwed coming out of high school and the housing crash happened. So does that mean it was harder or easier for them? Or that they're more lazy because they didn't own houses? Or is there all kinds of elements that kick in? So yes, with your large portfolio, Matt, and you incorporating Section 8 in the last year, and then you doing the emergency rental assistance program, your opinion of tenants has to be going on a downhill slide. Versus I have the same screening criteria, right? High credit score, no evictions ever, no problems. I don't see my tenants any worse now than they were before. So there's a kind of an economy of scale there, and I don't think it's age related. I have tenants that can't even buy beer yet that have never been late on their rent.
No, I mean, I think it's some to do with age. I think it's mostly to do with the horribly awful, insidious programs that we have as a country. But I think that I do see it with the younger generation. And again, just volume based, right? 18 units, 140. What I see is, and we're a college town too, we've got a college town as well. And what I see, quite honestly, is I do see that it used to be 1 out of 10 kids needed an attitude adjustment. And now it's more like 1 out of 5. And so we see it because we have college kids and we do 4 and 5 bedrooms. And so there were years where we had kids where we didn't hear a peep out of them about anything. They were fine. And the number of tenants that are in those 4 and 5 bedroom places that were friends that have broken leases in the last 3 years is as much as I had in the last 20. And, there were just in the last 18 months, I know of 3 restraining orders against roommates. We never had that ever. And I think that there's just this constant chip on the shoulder and attitude. And it's like, dude, you're not that special. you're just not that special. And whatever triggering event might have occurred, you're just going to have to find a way to build a bridge and get over it. And so for me, we've recognized very quickly that, that's what's changed for me is there's a lot more triggering things for the younger student population and debt generation that quickly escalates to the point where one roommate stabbed another one with a plastic knife, like out of their DoorDash. Like, never was a problem ever before. And I just think that everyone's so much more on edge and just so much more amped up and entitled. I mean, some of the silly things that I hear for responses are, I've literally been told in the last year, well, you better get this taken care of. I better. That's an interesting turn of phrase. Yeah. Yep. You better not expect to see me. And if you do, you better not answer the door. Like how dumb. Just like, I better. So anyway, I think, not to belabor the point, but yeah, I think that there's definitely, I believe that the pandemic definitely broke people, and a lot of people are still walking around broken. I feel like that. Jack Stewart, sorry, my phone glitches up. I didn't get to finish my thought. Matt, can you talk about when you almost went into bankruptcy to getting your debt to equity down to 50% and how you went about doing it? Time. That's it. Just time. We almost went bankrupt because, we had $21,000 a month in bills and we had $6,000 a month in cash flow. Those are the wrong direction. Reverse it. And so what did we have to do? It took me years to get out of that bucket, but thankfully kind of like GM or kind of like GM did, or Ford did more. Ford, before the great financial crisis, what they actually did was they actually levered a ton of their assets and had billions and billions of dollars in cash sitting there. So they got hit by all the same problems GM did, and Chrysler, Stellantis, all these other companies got hit with the same problems. Ford was smarter in this regard because they got in front of it and they levered a bunch of their assets and they had billions of dollars of cash. What I had available to me was credit. And so I quickly maxed out all that credit and used that to sustain me as I was going through the process. And so had I not done that, I would have been forced into bankruptcy. The lead order, that was the next thing that almost forced me into bankruptcy because they were like, oh, well, yeah, it's going to be $46,000. And I was like, not in these pants, probably in the other ones. I didn't have $47,000 to clean up a lead project. So what really rescued me was going out there and making sure that I had access to capital. And so I went out there and I had access to capital. I started, you name it. I had my real job that I was working and crushing it, doing everything I could because that was what was helping me pay my bills. I sold some cars. I would buy and sell some motorcycles, bought and sold baseball cards, left no stone unturned. There really wasn't a whole lot I wasn't willing to do and take care of. I had to basically not use handymen to do anything, and I had to do everything. That was another thing that we had to do. So, and then it was just time. I mean, it took me 4 or 5 years to dig out of the hole that I made for myself because we had to make sure we didn't lose anything. And I wasn't willing to just walk away from a property. Wasn't willing to do that. Dion, I know you went through some horribly awful financial times.
So how do you fix your debt to equity? Hang on just a second. All right. I've got the handyman here working. I just want to make sure they didn't need me for something because that would be important.
Yes.
When someone's working for you, just like during the lives, you answer the phone.
Yes.
So a lot of people will do the recycle capital strategy, right? Cash out refinance, 1031, redeploy the equity for a better return, home equity line of credit. And it makes sense during growth mode. I've always done the recycle cash flow, right? So it was slower, smaller portfolio, bigger margins. And when I went to retire, I was looking at this I had offers out on 2 duplexes. One was an all cash offer and one was an offer with a mortgage. If I went with the mortgage, it would have a better return. It would have a better appreciation, a better depreciation cycle. I'd be able to then deploy more money into another property. I would be able to grow faster. When I was looking at both of them, since I was retiring and I was looking at debt to equity, and I wanted to hover around 70% when I was in growth mode. I wanted to drop it to like 50. So I went with the all cash purchase, which I may do a cash out when it's all done and take the money and go put it to work somewhere else or buy stupid stuff. I don't know. But I'm going to make sure that I don't take my overall portfolio leveraged position above 50%.
Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
Not particularly, but I do have one question that I was going to ask you guys because I thought you guys might both have good perspective on this. This one actually came from Instagram.
Okay.
Pull it up real fast.
I've heard of
it. And then I'm going to let you guys answer, and I'm going to hop off because I'm going to die if I don't get to sleep here. I've been up for like 7 hours. All right. So this one is from Manny Morales, somebody who follows me on Instagram. He says, "Hey, Mike, I love the videos. I've been following you on YouTube for a while. Finally decided to make an Instagram to reach out. I'm getting ready to close on my first property. I'm house hacking a duplex in Washington with one inherited tenant on a month-to-month lease. They're currently paying way under market rent, and they're on a fixed income, Social Security. The vacant unit is fully updated, and the occupied unit is not. I would like to move into the occupied unit so I can fix it while I live there and maximize the rents on that updated unit. Any insights on how you might handle this situation would be greatly appreciated. The tenant is an older couple, and it's hard to do, but I want to make the best financial decision." So, sounds like he wants to move the older people that are on Social Security out so he can rent the updated unit for max profit and then fix up the other one. So how would you guys tactfully go about approaching something like that?
Did you want to go first, Matt?
Up to you. You go.
Okay. Well, I'll go. You just put your hand up when I've talked too long because this is my thing. This is what I do. I buy properties where the rents are too low. Yeah. And I want to be able to sleep at night feeling like I didn't displace somebody.
Yes.
So step one is they're month to month. So even if you do say you have to move out, I'm moving in, which is your legal right in Washington if this is where they're at, because you can intend to occupy a property and make the tenant move out. It doesn't mean you have to move into the vacant unit. You're moving into the property. You can pick the one you move into. If you want to feel better and sleep at night, offer cash for keys, take the money and pay it towards the deposit on where they're going to make it easier for them. Don't give it to them because then you might have to go through an eviction and you're out of the money too. But I'd wait 2 months. I'd binder strategy. Don't sign the lease. See how the binder strategy goes. You may be shocked that they say we want the rent to go up to this amount. Even on their fixed income, I have been absolutely shocked at what tenants will ask for their rent to go up to. And then if it is enough to where you can move into the fixed up unit, because now you don't have to spend the money on the rehab. You're saving $5,000 to $10,000 with the increase that the tenants asked for. Gives you a year to stabilize. You can even tell them, look, I get it. This works, but you have a year to find a place, right? And in a year, I'm going to want to rehab this unit. That would make it easier for me to acquire the property. If you go in and they just absolutely can't take the rent, and you go, I understand. Here's a 90-day notice. You need to move out. I'm moving in. But you at least included them in the conversation to then explain, here's what I paid. Here's what rents are. It doesn't make sense for me to have it where it is. What do you think would be fair? And if fair is fair for you and you can do it without doing a rehab, that's what I would do all day long. If it isn't fair, I have a situation, one of the first times where the binder strategy resulted in the tenants saying, yeah, we need to move because we can't afford to live here. And it was because they're in a 3-bedroom and it's a couple with no kids. So they could live in a 1 or a 2-bedroom somewhere and have $1,000 less rent compared to what would be fair for both sides. So sometimes the best result is the tenant moves out. Sometimes they just ask for an increase that you're like shocked that they did for. Yep. I did it recently where the tenant asked for $500 and I said, that would be great. How about we do 3? And next year we'll add that extra 2. Right, we'll give you a year to adjust that because I wasn't even comfortable with that big of an increase right away. So that would be how I would handle that.
Yep, I don't disagree at all. I think certainly with the older couples, one of the things that we actually try and do is we actually have them, we just ask them to fill out an application. And the reason that we actually ask them to fill out the application is because I just did this on Tuesday of this week or Wednesday of this week. I actually got them applied for Section 8. And sometimes on an emergency basis, you can actually get, I've gotten a voucher on an emergency basis before. I had somebody that was just like, hey, listen, emergency rental assistance paid my rent and I can afford maybe $700 a month. That's the most I can afford because there were a number of years that they didn't work. and they didn't have access to Social Security. And so it was very, very, actually they did, but it was just infinitesimally small, but they also couldn't work. And so I worked with Section 8. I got them approved, and they were able to stay in the unit, and now it's a Section 8 unit. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the case where I want to see Section 8 work. You know, it's not the case where I want to see it working for 20 and 30 somethings that are able-bodied, right? I want to see it working for the retirees. I want to see it working for people that might have had a life issue. You know, I want to see it working for them, not working for the 20s and 30 somethings that are second and third generation on the programs. So that's my thought. Dancing with the Woman with Rentals, that is the same sample I use, same university, same house, same age of tenants, yet there's a huge difference. It is forcing my prices up to cover extra management. Sadly, yeah. I mean, we get 80% of our calls happen from 10% of our tenants. 10%. That's, I mean, first thing it does is it makes sure that we don't renew their lease, you know, and we let them know 60 days in advance, hey, we're not going to renew. So just wanted to make sure you get a heads up. However, the likelihood that they are not going to pay that last month's rent is quite high. It is quite high.
Which is still better than the tenant staying.
Which is exactly right, Dion. It's so much better than a bad tenant staying, and then you just cut the cord, and then boom, it's on to the next one. Landlord Odyssey. Whoa, Friday live stream. Hello, gents. Hello, Landlord Odyssey. Hello, Ready On. Good to see you. Edward Kim. Hey, hope you guys are doing well. Who pays for utilities for Section 8? Dion, how do you do that? Yeah, what do you have? 3 units now, Section 8, or 2 or 4?
I had 3. I have 2 right now.
Okay. And
so
how do you
want a third? I want a third. So the next place that's opening is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. It's the house that's part of my triplex. It's coming open. I'm probably going to go with Section 8 on that because I like to keep about a third-ish in the program. So they have a cap on what they can pay fair market rents, including utilities.
Yep.
So if they're lower than that cap, all of my utilities are in the tenant's name. I don't pay anything. I think I have one where the tenant pays. So there's this one where the water has to be in the owner's name. So I can't put it in the tenant's name. It's like my other ones that are like that, but it's also Section 8. Mm-hmm. So told Section 8 that, and they said, well, our tenant can't pay for water to you, right? They could if it was being billed by the thing, but they can't pay the landlord for utilities. So I said, great, here's the new rent. And they said, oh, that's exactly the same amount increase as the water. Smart. They actually said, smart, you're covered. And so it's been that way now for years.
Yeah, that's great. Landlord Odyssey. And to answer the question, for me, we do everything we can to not include utilities because we do not want to be tied to their bad decisions. Very often they are not conscientious. Dion says this nicer than I do, but they just don't really care. And so it's all sorts of silly, stupid stuff. So we stay away from that. I did see one question up here. Martin C. Info on cabinets. Shared a little bit earlier, Martin, not ignoring you. Shared a little bit earlier. I don't share the name only because I'm not supposed to be wholesaling them. I'm supposed to be retailing them. And so I don't share the name, but anybody that's in my Lumberjack Landlord Bootcamp course, we actually allow to buy wholesale cabinets. And we did one of Dion's kitchens, and we'll probably never do one for him again because he's never going to do another rehab.
I hope not. So, that's the hope. Yes, you can get more rent with a rehab. That'd be great. But you can also get enough rent without a rehab, and life is easier.
Yes. Let's see. Landlord Odyssey. I'm going to make an Instagram page with the witty lumberjack sayings. First one, what I spend in a week would choke a donkey. That will be the most hated Instagram channel in the world. I say horrible, horrible things.
If they love us or they hate us, they're thinking about us.
Hard starn, right? Surf Marco, referring to single family home. What are advantages, disadvantages to renting to a single person and let them sublet versus a separate rental agreement for each room person in a house as a single room rental?
So if you're going to rent by the room, I recommend Todd Baldwin. He's got a lot of strategies for how to optimize that, what to do with shared living space to minimize conflicts between them. For me, anytime I've had roommate situations, they all came at the same time and they all signed a lease for the total amount of the rent so that if one doesn't pay, the other ones are just as responsible. If you want to rent by the room, you're going to sign a lease for the amount of what they're paying for that room. So there are some things to consider there. I generally don't like to do roommate situations, but I don't say no. I will have a Dion talk with them and go, you're all signing a lease for the total amount. So if you don't qualify, the other person is co-signing with you. So if this person moves out, you're still on the hook for this lease if this person doesn't pay. And so far I've had 0 issues.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the other thing too is that renting out by the room in most places is illegal unless you're properly
like 3 unrelated adults can live in the same premises. So once you go above that, there's a couple of towns in Washington that are still that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And so you just got to make sure you check your rules. If you get caught for that, it is extremely punitive. I know that in Las Vegas, 98% of the Airbnbs are illegal. And now they're starting to hand out fines because they beefed up enforcement, because now there's so many people that are doing it so blatantly that now they're going after people. And I can tell you in the last 3 weeks, I know of 4 different people that have gotten fines over $25,000. The fees are ridiculous. So it's a very dangerous thing to be doing. So yeah, so that's my thought process. Janitor on Fire, Joe Asamoah, said DC doesn't use FMR anymore. They use a comp style system.
Yeah, he does the Section 8, 5 or 6 bedroom houses there and gets over $5,000 a rental. So each county has some leeway in what they do with fair market rents. It's what I use as an arguing point when I'm talking about where I want the rents to be, but I also send comps.
Yep, absolutely. Rob, Matt, you need to get a shirt that says "Friends don't let friends buy shit." I mean, probably. Let's see. Jared Oschenbein, do any of you use velocity banking? Dion, do you use velocity banking?
I don't. Now, is that the concept or is that a company?
Concept, I think. I've seen a couple of other
No, all mine are conventional loans through a bank. Once I went above 10, I would then explore all of the other strategies out there, but I don't do anything creative with money. I am not an investor that way. I'm a lazy person, and there's a system in place to just borrow money from banks and put it to work in properties. So,
yeah. No. Andrew Wilkins, good to see you, my friend. Andrew, I remember when Andrew first got his CDL license. Now he's been on the road for a while. Congratulations on that again. Michelle Meyer, I just got to the point of the live. Sorry, there is a W-2 issue on my end. I understand. Thanks, guys, for talking about the squatters issue. Happy to do it. Of course, our pleasure. Josh Melby, do you guys have to have go-to window brands for replacing windows? Did you replace windows at your place, your project? Yep. And we
3
talked
quotes.
about that. Go ahead. Yeah.
3 quotes.
Yeah,
I don't even know what the names of them are. I just got 3 quotes. There was some version that you recommended where it's not just temperature, it was sound suppressive or whatever, because I'm right on a main road. You guys can hear every time I do a live out there. There are streets right behind me. So I went with that, but I went with multiple quotes, and I found a local guy. I wish I could remember his name because they did a phenomenal job. Like, I prepped it, they came out to check, and he said, here's a couple things you can do. Like, they helped before it was even time to put it in. And when they put it in, they did the right vapor barrier stuff. So I'll have to do a video and talk up their company, because it's a small locally owned company that I ended up going with.
Yeah, so we did the same. Ours is fairly local. It's like multi-state, but not like countrywide. So it's a multi-state company. Love it. What I look for is I ask them to build to spec. So it's actually a low E argon gas, window, and then you can go Energy Star or Energy Star Plus. And then when Dion and I had talked about it, again, because of the road noise, you can do something called an acoustic window. And basically that's usually adding another gasket to the window, a better gasket, and also a third pane of glass. So I highly recommend those if you're ever in high traffic areas. And then just like Dion said, I would look at multiple quotes and just ask them who the manufacturer is, because you want to make sure that when they say it's a low E argon gas window, that it's actually a low E argon gas window. So yeah, those are helpful.
Red Berserker asks about the velocity banking. Yep. No, that's Velocity Mortgage that Correct. Does the 50-40-10.
Yeah, so we did. Has anybody else done a 50-40-10? I don't think Zoob did one. Did you do one?
No, I had an offer accepted on one, and the deal didn't work out.
Fell apart. Yeah, so I've done a 50-40-10. Loved the structure of the deal. Hated the person that I did the deal with. Surf Marco, to us, you guys are rad for giving your time like this. Oh, happy to do it. Let's see, Gavin. Hey guys, really want to buy a Corvette instead of another house. Dion, I know you have an answer for exactly how you would do that if you wanted to buy a Corvette.
So if you're in growth mode, you acquire the asset that will make the payments for the Corvette. If you're in financial stable mode, you assign an asset's income to the payments for the Corvette.
Yes. Feel the same way. But yeah. Yep. Andrew Wilkins, I saw making around 90K a year, new job with your CD out. Congratulations, man. I knew you could do it. I just knew it, and you've done it, and you've absolutely crushed it. Congratulations to you. Martin Properties, I'm about to catch the neighborhood cats, Rob, and take them to the pound. They keep shitting in my yard. New flower bed, and once I found one on the roof. Yeah.
Rob saw my live stream the other day where my neighborhood cat walked up, and if you could see the back of my hand, never pick up a neighborhood cat because
that was from the cat.
So cuddly and purry, and then he just turns into a buzzsaw.
Dear God. Dancing Alone with Rentals. One more, if I may, of course. A few of my banks did away with the deposit slips. Yep. This means if a tenant makes a deposit, I can't see an online image of the deposit. Are you seeing more of this? Yes. Yes, I am.
I know people hate the large banks, but one of the reasons why I stay with either Wells Fargo, Bank of America, or Chase is because their online presence is so strong with everything they do. Small local banks might be better for lending or might be better for your accounts or whatever, but I like to travel a lot and I want everything to work from my phone.
Yep. Dion's exactly right about that. They by far have the technology game figured out. Now, just so you know, small banks, they don't have to make their own technology. They usually go through a company that services smaller banks. So there's a bunch of those kinds of companies out there. And so there's, I forget what the name of the biggest one, but they were a client of mine. They actually help all those small banks with all that technology. But at the end of the day, it's still third-party technology. It's not homegrown like Bank of America's or Wells Fargo or any of these other guys. Edward Kim. Hey guys, thanks for answering my last question. What are the downsides just focusing on Section 8 investing? Dion.
It's really the main thing for me is the housing authority or the nonprofit in your county that runs your voucher program. So in most places it's a housing authority, but there are some where it's a nonprofit. So you want to find out which one does it. I invested in 2 counties for a long time. I don't have the experience with the third one yet. One county, and I hate to name people by name, but Thurston County, Washington is amazing. Phenomenal. I'm adding my third Section 8 unit with them because the housing authority is really great to work with. Pierce County, Washington, again, not to name anybody by name, but Pierce County, Washington sucks. I will never own a property on the voucher program in Pierce County, Washington because of the people at the housing authority. Then there's the other aspect to look at it is, and this is maybe area specific, I screen for Section 8 just like I do non-Section 8. So 700 credit score, no evictions ever. And I get plenty of applicants. I have Section 8 tenants with an 831 credit score. There are areas where it's more related to, it seems to be low income than fixed income. In my area, there's a lot of fixed income Section 8. So retired veterans, Social Security, or a family with a certain number of like special needs kids where they have a fixed income, can't work, whatever it is. And I've had great experience with them. What I wouldn't do, and even at your size, you learned the lesson. I wouldn't do anything with the emergency rental assistance program. Because even then turning that into Section 8, you went through like 100% eviction, or did you keep one of them or something?
One out of 13.
Right. So my portfolio being small, I only had 16 units when that program came out. I didn't allow one to come in because I knew it'd be great for a year. But then in a year, I'm starting a long drawn out eviction process with somebody who knows how to work the system. That's why they're in the program in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think from our perspective, we wanted to, try and house people. The other option that we had too with a lot of those units where they were assets that we acquired in the middle of winter, and they were units that were empty. And so I could put somebody in there right away. Now, at the end of the day, did it upset the bullshit to money ratio? Yeah, it upset the bullshit to money ratio. Still made 8 or 9 points. So it was, still healthy. But for it being the first year of those rentals. But at the end of the day, if you ask me if I would do it over again, my answer would be absolutely not. I wouldn't do it over again. I would rather have empty units for 2 or 3 months. The only thing that I felt really compelled to do it was to help people. And if that was the only motivation, it was the right motivation and I did the right thing. But now I realize why I hate helping people is because it gets very, very, very expensive. And literally it just would have been worth it if I had just given them the house and just said, here you go, act like a bunch of a-holes. And, you know, and whatever you're leaving me with is, I guess, going to be good enough for me. Dion's 100% right. It all comes down to Dion and I don't care who pays the person's rent. We don't care. The only thing that we have to care about is what is the administrative burden that is created by whoever is paying that, whether it's a tenant, whether it's an entity, whatever it is, it's the administrative burden that gets created that makes something worth doing or not doing. You know, Dion's got a very low bullshit to money ratio, and I expect, and I hope mine continues to change, because I can point to all the times I've ended up in court in the last 12 months and say that 11 out of 12 of them were completely based on who I and what I had done to try to help somebody. I'm an idiot.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, like seriously. Andrew, with the new income, we are looking into purchasing land and developing small multifamily back in New Mexico. Any advice? I would, it depends on what really is driving that, because if it were me, Andrew, I would be looking at existing homes where I can do an ADU. That's what I would be looking at if I were looking to fresh invest. A lot of times you're not going to find duplexes in a great area. A lot of times you're not going to find duplexes that you want to build, because in most places in the country, building is $250 a square foot. And you're not going to find that it's going to cash flow that well, especially unless it's in a neighborhood that already fits that. And then they're going to fight you for trying to build a duplex in a nice neighborhood. So if I were in your shoes, my best advice would be, I'd be looking at the ADU model. Dion, what are your thoughts?
I would contact contractors in the area and ask what the timeline is like to work with those counties or municipalities on their permit process. Contact the city and find out first, what are the impact fees? What are the expectations if you build? Do you have to extend the sewer? All those kind of things. And then figure out if you're going to be doing lending. Can you find a loan product like what Matt uses, where it's a construction loan that automatically turns into a fixed rate mortgage at the end without having to do a refinance once the build's done? And there's a lot of things to look at doing it there. And building is a job. Like that is even managing a general contractor is a big time thing versus Andrew, I would say there's a lot of investors who would say, I build all the time and it's great. I'm the lazy investor. So you're going to get the biased opinion of the person who's looking for the easiest way to generate enough income, not the most income. Right.
Yes.
And so an example is, I'm in this duplex doing this rehab, and I projected an ARV of about, I say 700. All the investors in here that in the area that I've talked to say 750, but I'm looking at comps now of a place that's for sale at the street. That's like, I don't know, it's some ridiculous 6 something a square foot is what they're selling it for. And so it would put my ARV based on some new assumptions here, where instead of creating $250,000, I'm looking at 350 or 4. And so then I'm thinking, okay, so if I stay here for 2 years, the IRS 121 rule, I get all this money to play with, but I don't want to do this again. Consider your options and look, what yield would you get if you purchased one that was existing as an ADU, an option? But until you find out from the contractors, like, oh, it's great, everything happens within a year and a half, you could probably expect to be breaking ground, right? Have that awareness of what that's going to take versus, it could be 5 months and you're done with everything. Yeah.
Michael Diaz, are there any type of, are there a specific type of account to keep the tenant's deposits? If you're under 10, you can put them in your normal landlord account. If you are over 10, you need to have a separate account for your deposits that are interest bearing. That is the rule. And so you can get in deep trouble if you don't have those deposits in a separate interest bearing account. I know that for us, our deposit account doesn't match the number of units that we have, if that makes sense. And it's because we've taken over some that didn't have deposits. We've taken over some that, that are existing tenants where they didn't have a deposit when we bought the building. So we don't have to put anything in there for them, but it just doesn't exist. And so it looks off. So that's my take on it. Dion, you do everything because do you have to have separate accounts for yours?
So the rule in Washington is separate account, but it's got to be interest bearing too. That's the only thing. They don't have how many units you have or anything. It just has to be an interest bearing account. It doesn't say separate from all of your other accounts, so it just has to be in an interest bearing account, which interest bearing can be 0.02. Right? It doesn't say you have to go out and get the best whatever's currently offered interest bearing account.
Sadly, I think mine makes 0.125, but I don't want to move it because it's in a bank that I trust. I don't want to move it to another bank. And I need to, just in case, I need to have it there where we can, because transferring stuff in and out of accounts from different bank to different bank can kind of be a pain in the ass sometimes from a ledger perspective. So yeah, understood. Janitor on Fire. I love Wells Fargo. Well, you and one other person.
I have several mortgages with them. They go okay. And I made pretty good money when I had more than 250,000 and I want to separate it for the insurance. I moved it over and they had a 4-point-something% rate for the few months. And I was making $700 or $800 a month in interest, which is not terrible. I've never had any issues with them. I've never had them make a fake account for me or whatever those allegations were a couple of years ago.
Yeah, account churn.
But yeah.
Yeah. Rob, so Dion's next course, why you should never do a burr.
Well, it'll be why I will never do another burr, even though it created hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. That's all I want the story to be. You cannot do another one, but you have to say how much money you made.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say that it was a bad investment. I'm going to say it was a bad use of time.
Yeah. Listen, I know what you do with your free time. Stop. That's just silly. You're the world's highest paid non-professional gamer. Like, okay, then. Janitor on Fire. How much importance is proximity to campus for student rentals? It is generally important. And what I mean by that is what's most important is access to the transportation that brings you to campus. So you that way they can have a car, not have a car. They can ride the bus. They can ride a train. So what we purposefully do is we want it within 8 blocks of the train station. And if we do it within 8 blocks of the train station, that puts them within 2 blocks of a bus pickup on a number of the different buses that come through town. The other cool thing too, that was kind of smart, is our area. If you show student ID, you're able to get on the bus for free. So that's a big thing for us. So yeah, student rentals by far, they're a huge thing. And there was this trend of going ultra luxury on a lot of these campuses, but now that people are, looking at actually scrutinizing their college debt because they're going to have to pay it back. Guess what? They're not deferring. They're deferring the $18,000, 7.5 month, $3,000 a month, or $2,500 a month investment or spend that they're doing on their dorm. And that's the smart thing. Andrew Wilkins, great advice as always. Thank you so much. We are also taking a trip to Connecticut for the first time. There is an Ailstorm show this weekend there. Very cool. That is probably the only thing ever worth doing in Connecticut. I don't like Connecticut. Not a fan of Connecticut. Dancing alone with rentals. It went from 2 miles to a half a mile to the main gate. Janitor on Fire. What's the important of? Yeah, gotcha. Ninja Vanish. Haha. Nice. Use the free time wisely playing games with friends, as I know he does. Wealth Building Journey. Hey, Chester, how's it going? Ultra luxury and broke college kids. Why? Because
unlimited debt.
Yeah, the money's free, my man. That's why. Why do you think colleges raise their prices every year between 6 and 10%? Only one reason, because the government doesn't stop them from doing it, and they still underwrite any loan for any degree. That is where the government could just make one little tweak and fix this thing. We will let you get college debt if you go into one of the important fields: nursing, being a doctor, being a engineer, being fill in the blank. But if you want to get something in, no offense, everybody, in psychology,
or sociology, right? What really sucks is
sociology more than psychology. Agreed.
You go, here's all of the money that you want to borrow. for the college, for your living expenses while in college. You can also borrow that, and it's federally backed, right? But you can't bankrupt it or whatever. And so there's all these little hidden things that go on there, and it's got an adjustable interest rate. So it's like the worst debt. If people said, okay, that was a really mean, rude thing you said, Matt, where if it's an important degree, you can get it. All degrees are important. But if they did that, if they said, okay, if it's in STEMs and it equals something that's going to make you more money, you're going to get a law degree to actually be able to be a criminal attorney. And I mean criminal attorney, which is the good one. That's the one you want. Or a doctor or something that's going to make more money. Sure, we'll back it. So those prices would go up. We would see the price of the other courses that people want come down. Right? That would be the benefit that people are saying, well, that's important too. No, you don't want it to be. If it's a degree in something, like what's the one? Gender studies. Okay, guy or girl, the gender studies degree. What job does that get you that there's enough jobs of that pays enough? And here's a perfect example. For about a decade, I ran the CDL school, and I would go on joint base Lewis McChord and do this transition assistance program, the TAPS program, to help service members get out and help spouses find a job while their service member was in. And there were these counselors. In order to get this position, you had to have a master's degree. You absolutely had to have a master's degree to be a TAPS counselor. That started at $31,000 a year. So you're sitting there with somebody who took the time, energy, effort, and debt to get a master's degree to help people transition from the military to get a job, who found a job at the poverty level with a master's degree. It was a bad mix of everything.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Getting some loan with rentals, I agree. All those degrees are quite a bit the same. Underwater basket weaving, I know they like the stuff that they're coming up with. It's like some of the new Olympic sports. It's like, are you joking? Gavin L. I knew the Corvette answer. I'm looking at a purchase that is a break even at current rents. But I believe
at current rents, that could be a thing. What are area average rents?
Current, yes.
How does it look like then?
But I believe it to be under market by 25% per unit. Good. Rent box.
This is where the binder strategy comes from.
Yep. Do the rent box, then you can do the binder, but prove it. So it would make approximately 15% ROI better than bank APR. At a 15% deal, how's that compared to the other deals in the market? That sounds like a huge winner anyway.
And that's the thing. There's so many investors out there that would go, it's a break-even deal at market rents. You have to do it where rents are, and they're just done. I'm like, no. That's where the door opens. Now we're going to take a look in the living room.
Yeah, the idea that, I buy plenty of properties that are break even or loss the day that I sign the contract.
Lost when purchased.
Yeah.
But 2 months later, we're at 10% return.
Correct. And that's the thing is, but you have to know, you have to know your rent box in order to be able to know that they're that far under, number one. Number two is you have to have a method to get them higher, the binder strategy. And number three, you then have to know that that's going to be needed going into it. Like those are the most important metrics of trying to get a deal like that. And it's funny. Somebody said to me, they're like, oh, well, every deal you do is awesome. Well, now they are. And at the same time too, I don't do every deal that comes across my desk, but I get a lot more deal flow. I have a lot more deals to pick from than most people because I don't depend on only. You have been very successful investing out of MLS. Very successful. It's not that you can't get there. Can you get there faster? Can you get there bigger? You can, but you need to make sure that you're getting a bunch of deals at other deal sources. Million, what do you think about 401k withdrawal to buy a property? I don't mind it. I didn't do it because I found out that I was basically going to have to maintain everything separately. And I was like, hell no, that's not going to work. Not with the size that we are now. Not with the size.
That's a self-directed one. He's talking about a withdrawal to buy.
Yes. Oh, I got it. So pay the penalties?
Yeah. So here, I'll go through this for Million's question. You have an option to do an owner-occupied first purchase from your retirement account, and it's kind of company dependent. It's usually like $15,000 that you can pull out to buy. Sure. I don't recommend taking money out of your retirement account and paying the penalties and paying the taxes and buying a rental property until you've done 3 or 4 deals, right? Those first couple of deals are when we're getting an understanding, make our biggest mistakes, sometimes lose money. And I wouldn't want to put money at risk that you have to pay taxes and a penalty on to access to put to work. So my first, I think it was 5 properties were save a down payment by the property. House hack, 2 of them, right? Save a down payment by a property. The 6th property, I emptied out my retirement account, paid the taxes, put the money to work because I was confident in my ability to get a return that was better than the tax benefits of a retirement account. So if that's what you're talking about to own or occupy, sure. If not, if you're buying an investment property, I'd wait till you have 3 or 4 and you're confident in your ability in your market with your asset class, not trying a new strategy. And then if it's self-direct, no, you lose all of the benefits in a self-directed IRA. So if that was the question, which I don't think it was from the way you worded it, you don't get to depreciate. You can't self-manage. Like all of the reasons why I want to own real estate is gone. So hope that helps.
Yeah, I think on Cyber Investor Florida, I think that on your side of things, taking a loan against your 401k, sure. That, I mean, it really depends. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do this. And so it really just, the thing that we would encourage you the most is talk to your accountant. Talk to your accountant to say, what is the best way to do this? Should I be taking a loan out against my 401? Should I be taking a withdrawal out of my 401? Should I do something that's self-directed? Really, that's the advice that you're going to get from, and just make sure you give them those 3 options. But I would be talking to an accountant about that, because how it's taxed and what costs are associated really matters the most. You know, you don't want to lose your ability to recognize depreciation. You don't want to lose your ability to recognize losses. You don't want to lose your ability to do some of the things that really makes real estate make the most sense. So you really just have to make sure you're asking people that really understand from a CPA perspective how this is going to impact what you're doing. Dion, we're coming up on 5 o'clock my time, 2 o'clock your time. So I got to get ready for kids for dinner, but any closing thoughts, Dion?
The thing I've seen a lot in like a theme of questions this week is people thinking financial freedom is not possible. Part of this was in the Uneducated Economist chat the other day where, for some reason, Simon brought up the Flamingo Girl interview on the street. And the Flamingo Girl mentioned there was so much money prior to COVID on the strip that there isn't any now. And he would have had some follow-up questions. So it kind of brought people around to thinking, because he doesn't really talk about financial freedom or financial independence on his channel much, but the topic went there. And there were a lot of comments that said, it just doesn't seem possible. I want people to understand that for the half a century that I've been around, every single year, people thought it's not possible. You can't buy rentals. You can't predict where the stock market's going. And every single year, people invested and put money to work. And over a long enough timeline, they're successful. So the fear that it's not going to work is not a justifiable reason to not take action.
True story. Dion, where can everybody find you, my friend, just in case they're watching on my channel?
There you go. Well, if you're on my channel, this is Matt, the Lumberjack Landlord. You can find him here on YouTube. Millennial Mike was on with us earlier. And you can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, where every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, I do live streams like this and answer questions just like this. And Matt, you're here Sunday morning,
8:30
Pacific.
a.m. 8:30 a.m. Pacific. Yep. And then boot camps and stuff like that. And Brian Pralgo, I see first week into my first burr. Any advice? Show up for Dion and Mai's live stream and have questions ready. We're happy to help you. Dion's going through one right now, and I've done about 50 of them. So happy to answer any questions that you have. Bring specific questions. The only advice Dion, you and I can leave it on this. The only advice I would give you is it's going to feel overwhelming every single time something comes up. Recognize that it's part of the game, and you're going to find things you didn't expect, and it's not the end of the world, and you're just going to get through it. Dion?
So, and then I'll wrap up with this too. First, Ninja Vanish, thank you again for gifting a members only membership. That is much appreciated. That will be a members only meeting, Zoom, where we all jump on Zoom. And I'll figure out if StreamYard does that too. Not sure how, but Tuesday at 6 p.m. after my live stream. But with this burr thing, the first thing to consider is first, yes, come back with a bunch of questions when we're not wrapping up a video, and we will answer a bunch of those. The main thing to think about with your BRRRR that most people don't think of when they first start studying the process of buying, rehabbing, renting it out, refinancing, and repeating it is your refinance is not based on the sale of a property at the time you go to refinance, because nobody's offering to buy your property. They're going to use comps that are 6 months old from the point when you go to refinance at what the comps are. So if you're starting now and you have a 6-month rehab, don't predict where prices are going to go, because if they go down, that will affect your ability to refinance. If they go up 20 or 30% because of some event we can't anticipate, that does not impact your ability to refinance. It is based on what it was 6 months prior to the refinance, because there's not somebody trying to buy it. Normally, a purchase is somebody selling and somebody buying, and they've both said, this is the amount we agree on. So your appraisal usually comes in there. When you go to do a cash out refinance at the end of a BRRRR, there's no buyer. So it's an appraiser going, what best protects the lender's ability to get this money back? Keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that gets people in trouble in BRRRRs. It's just one of those things that you can't know. So, Dion, as always, thank you, my friend. Good hanging out with you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Great to have you. Great to do another Friday live. We're not going to do them this late again. It's interrupting my nap schedule now. But guys, have an absolutely fantastic week. We will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget Dion's Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and me 11:30 a.m. Eastern time on Sundays. Thanks everybody for coming and hanging out. We will see you guys in the next one. Take care.
Ciao.